The American horror revolution of the 1970s and 80s brought a new strain of realism to the genre. The fantastical monsters of the past made way for slashers inspired by the war in Vietnam and social upheaval at home, as well as the emerging figure of the serial killer. It's easy to guess that a spare, gritty film like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is loosely based on facts, but fans may be surprised to learn that the supernatural horror of A Nightmare on Elm Street has real-world references. Wes Craven terrified audiences in 1984 with the creation of Freddy Krueger, a demonic predator with the ability to kill people in their dreams. At the time, few viewers could have imagined that A Nightmare on Elm Street was based on an obscure phenomenon that caused a rash of deaths in the late 1970s into the early 80s. 40 years later, the real-world roots of Craven's uncanny concept have been exposed, making the classic film more frightening than ever before. The movie that started a monster sensation told a tale of suburban teens tormented by a demonic figure who turns their dreams into deadly realities. In life, Freddy Krueger was a child predator executed by a mob of angry parents, and in death, he avenges himself by picking off the children. Wes Craven told Vulture how this outrageous premise was actually inspired by an La Times article about a family of Hmong refugees who had settled in the United States. He said, suddenly the young son was having very disturbing nightmares. He told his parents he was afraid that if he slept, the thing chasing him would get him, so he tried to stay awake for days at a time. When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. The Hmong are an indigenous Southeast Asian minority group who were conscripted into aiding the US during Vietnam, and subsequently suffered government persecution at home. Upon arriving in the States, many refugees experienced what came to be known as sudden unexpected death syndrome, a phenomenon of spontaneous mortality during one's sleep. The book Nightmares, Nossobos, and the Mind-Body Connection studied 117 such cases, but the mysterious deaths were never explained. Though nearly all of Wes Craven's films focus on American teens, the unifying theme is anti-authoritarianism. His young protagonists deal with patronizing adults who are often abusive and hypocritical. As a young man in the 1960s and 70s, Craven developed a serious mistrust of the government, and his characters clashed with authorities in a way that could reflect the challenges faced by traumatized refugees struggling to adapt to life in a new country. Many of today's viewers may also find this relatable. In addition to the mysterious deaths of the Hmong refugees, Wes Craven was also influenced by a disturbing early memory. In the documentary Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, the director remembered looking out the window of his childhood bedroom to see a shambling, mumbling figure outside in the street. Somehow he sensed that somebody was watching, and he looked right up into my eyes and I jumped back, and sat on the edge of the bed waiting for him to go away, and then I went back and he was still there. The thing that struck me most about that particular man was that he had a lot of malice in his face, and he also had this sort of sick sense of humor about how delightful it was to terrify a child. A Nightmare on Elm Street is so effective precisely because of its evocation of childhood fears and insecurities. Though the slasher series protagonists are older teenagers, their war with Freddy Krueger is worsened by the fact that as minors, they have no control over their lives. They are dominated by unsympathetic, neglectful, and even hostile adults, something many viewers have related to, which accounts for the film's enduring effectiveness. However, fans who thought A Nightmare on Elm Street couldn't get any more frightening may be shocked by the additive power of Wes Craven's real-life sources of inspiration.